Hello everybody and welcome back to the football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. As we return from the international break, the month flips over from March to April. We finished March with a respectable record and I'm hoping to keep the good momentum going in this new month. As we're returning from the international break, some teams will have a little bit of rust returning to Premier League action. And as such, I'm going to be taking my 3 selections in today's episode, all with half stakes, in order to gamble responsibly. As I said, I've got 3 picks in today's episode, so if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick sees 2nd place Arsenal playing host to 8th place Fulham. And Arsenal, they beat Chelsea by 1-0 in their last match before the international break. Mikel Merino proved to be the highlight in what was rather a drab contest, as both sides only combined for 1.07 XG, so perhaps the 1-0 scoreline was the most fitting result. In terms of form, this 3 points was a most welcome result for the Gunners, as that win against Chelsea breaks a streak of no win in 3 matches in the Premier League, which has seen Arsenal drop 7 points in the title race, with Liverpool now 12 points clear ahead of this match. They host a Fulham side whose last league fixture saw them pick up a 2-0 win against Tottenham Hotspurs. Fulham were the much better side in the first half, but were unable to make their chances count, and then, in a more competitive second period, Fulham managed to find the breakthrough in the 78th minute thanks to Rodrigo Muniz, and then 10 minutes later they doubled their advantage thanks to ex-Spurs player Ryan Sessegnon, who came off the bench to kill the game off. In terms of form, that win did continue what has been a rather inconsistent run for Fulham. 2 wins and 2 losses over their last 4 Premier League games. However, they are only 3 points off Manchester City in 5th, and a strong end to the season could see the Cottagers fighting for European football. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the reverse fixture between these sides finished in a draw. Raul Jimenez put Fulham ahead in the 11th minute before Saliba netted early in the second half, with the scoreline finishing 1-1. When we take a look at the numbers, we can see that Arsenal did dominate the game, and they probably would have felt hard done by to only earn a point from this match. The Gunners produced 4 big chances and a combined XG of 2.03, so clearly their performance merited more than the single goal that they did earn. Longer term, it has been a bit of a mixed bag between these sides. Over the last 4 Premier League encounters, Fulham have won a game, Arsenal have won a game, and the 2 other results have finished in a draw. My prediction for today's match is that, whilst Arsenal are certainly the stronger side of the 2, Fulham are no slouches this season. Additionally, Fulham find themselves in a great spot to contend for European football, and they won't simply roll over to Arsenal in this one. However, momentum has been halted somewhat after the international break, so I'm going to stay away from taking a side here and focus more on both teams to score. Arsenal have seen both teams to score in 3 of their last 4 competitive matches, and only in 2 of their last 4 matches at the Emirates. Whereas Fulham, they've seen 3 of their last 4 games see both teams to score, and in addition to this, each of the last 5 away games. Taking a look at the head-to-head record, each of the last 3 matches have seen both teams to score, and also 5 of the last 6 head-to-head encounters have seen both teams to score as well. So with all this information put together, I'm going to back both teams to score for a half stake here in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 10th place Bournemouth playing host to 18th place Ipswich Town, and Bournemouth, they were bested in their last match against Brentford. Despite the Cherries winning out statistically, they really did struggle to make a breakthrough, with their only contribution to the scoreline being Yalert's own goal after 17 minutes. From this point, Visa got the equaliser for the Bees, and then came the winner via Christian Norgard midway through the second half, with the final scores ending 2-1 to Brentford. In terms of form, that result does mean that Bournemouth are winless in their last 7 Premier League matches, as they've slid down the table over the course of March. They host an Ipswich Town side who lost once again in their last game against Nottingham Forest. Forest ended the first half with a flurry of goals, netting 3 times in the space of just 6 minutes to really kill off the contest. The Tractor Boys did manage to find late replies in the 82nd minute thanks to Kajust, which may have spurred a little bit of hope for the home fans. However, this was quickly crushed when Jota Silva added Nottingham Forest's 4th of the match. George Hurst then managed to score a stoppage time goal to get a bit more respect on the scoreline, with the final scores ending 4-2 to Nottingham Forest. In terms of form for Ipswich Town, that was their 4th loss in a row, and they have not won in their last 10 Premier League matches now. With Wolverhampton now 9 points clear of the relegation zone, Ipswich Town's fate is all but sealed this season. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last match between these sides saw Bournemouth pick up a 2-1 win in devastating fashion for the Tractor Boys. Connor Chaplin put Ipswich Town ahead after just 20 minutes, in a first half in which, looking at the numbers, Ipswich Town went toe-to-toe with Bournemouth. However, the second half was a much different story. Bournemouth took control of the game and managed to find a late leveller in the 87th minute thanks to Enes Unal, before the absolute hammer blow of a 95th minute winner by Dango Ouattara, and it saw the Cherries snatch all 3 points at the death. My prediction for today's game is that Bournemouth are the favourites on paper for sure. However, in light of their poor recent form and coming off the international break, it's really hard to back either side here. Instead, I like both teams to score. Bournemouth have seen both teams to score in each of their last 3 matches and also in 4 of their last 5 Premier League games. Whereas Ipswich Town, they've seen both teams to score in 6 of their last 7 Premier League matches. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the only recent match between these two sides was the 2-1 win for Bournemouth, in which both teams did score. So taking all that into account, I'm going to back both teams to score for a half stake here in bet number 2. Our third and final pick in today's episode sees 7th place Brighton and Hove Albion playing host to 9th place Aston Villa. And Brighton, they drew their last game away to Manchester City. The Seagulls were behind after 11 minutes thanks to Erling Haaland's penalty, but they refused to give up. Estupiñán levelled 10 minutes later before Marmush retook the lead for Manchester City. However, Brighton did manage to level the scores once again thanks to good fortune as Kusanov's deflected ball fell into the back of the net for the equaliser in the second half, and from there on they managed to hold out with the final scores ending 2-2. In terms of form, this result did stop a 4-game winning run. However, the Seagulls remain unbeaten in the last 5 Premier League matches. They play an Aston Villa side who picked up a win against Brentford in their last Premier League game. A fairly evenly contested match was settled by Ollie Watkins' goal early in the second half against his former side. Looking at the stats, it was a fairly even game, with Brentford taking most of the possession as both sides took 12 shots and forced 3 saves from each of the goalkeepers. The main disparity between these two sides came from the expected goals, where we can see Aston Villa were around half a goal more creative than their hosts, and this is what ultimately settled the game. In terms of form, it's been mixed for Aston Villa. 2 out of 3 wins is good, but when we zoom out a little bit, we can see they've won 2 of the last 5 matches, with a draw against Ipswich Town and a loss to Crystal Palace by 4-1 in there as well. It's kind of a classic sign of a side that's struggling to maintain league form whilst they run deep in Europe. When we take a look at the head-to-head records, the previous fixture between these sides was a really exciting clash at Villa Park. Adingra got Brighton off to a fast start, scoring after 12 minutes, before Ollie Watkins levelled things up from the penalty spot ahead of half-time. Villa then continued their momentum into the second half, with Morgan Rogers netting just 2 minutes into the period. Then, with Aston Villa in the ascendancy and looking to kill off the game, it was Tyreek Lamptey that levelled the scores up for Brighton in the 82nd minute, with the final scores finishing 2-2. When we take a look at the numbers though, perhaps Villa will feel hard done by as they didn't get a result in this match, as they did edge Brighton on the major win predictor statistics, but both sides did combine for 33 shots, 5 big chances, and 2.91 XG. Longer term though, it's been mixed form between these two sides. Over the last 3 Premier League meetings, both sides have picked up a win and there's been a draw in there to boot. My prediction for today's game is that both sides are still in contention for European football. At the time of recording, Aston Villa are yet to play PSG in the Champions League, and Brighton also have an FA Cup quarter-final against Nottingham Forest to contend with. So both sides will come into this match high on confidence. Both sides have talented goal scorers but may lack in the defensive department at times, so I'm looking for a high-scoring match once again. Brighton have seen over 2.5 goals in each of their last 6 Premier League games, and this does include each of the last 3 matches at the Amex. Whereas Aston Villa, they've seen over 2.5 goals in 3 of their last 4 Premier League matches, and only in 2 of their last 4 away matches. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, 4 of the last 5 encounters have seen over 2.5 goals, so I'm going to back over 2.5 goals for a half stake in the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 3 picks in today's episode, starting off with Arsenal versus Fulham. We're backing both teams to score at odds of 2.18, the £20 half stake to return £23.60. Moving on to the Wednesday, Bournemouth versus Ipswich Town. We're also taking both teams to score in this selection. Odds of 1.76, a half stake of £20 to return £15.20. And wrapping up today's episode, Brighton Aston Villa, over 2.5 goals. Odds of 1.52, a £20 half stake to return £10.40. So, across our 3 picks, we're going to be risking £60 to hopefully pick up as much as £49.20. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.